Hi, I'm Robert Rojas. In this video, I'm going to discuss the beliefs, desires, and intentions or BDI logic. I will explain this kind of logic by discussing the concept of time tree and combined modalities. Then the concept called BDI world will be demonstrated by giving a scenario. Let's start now. Belief, desire, intention or BDI model is one of the best known and most widely misunderstood approaches to reasoning about rational agents. BDI model recognizes the primacy of beliefs, desires, and intentions in rational action. It models the world using a temporal structure within a branching time future and a single past, called a time tree. The node of this time tree is called a situation, that is, a particular time point in a particular world. The nodes labeled S, T, U, V, W, X, and Y are the time points. One time point is transformed into another time point by some events. The arcs labeled E sub 1, E sub 2, E sub 3, E sub 4, E sub 5, and E sub 6 are the events. Event types can be primitives or non-primitives. Primitive events are events directly performable by the agent and uniquely determine the next time point in a time tree as shown in the screen. Non-primitive events map to non-adjacent time points as shown in the screen. A sample time tree is shown in the screen. The branches are treated as choices that the agent can choose to move from one time point to another time point. For example, there are three branches leaving time point S. The agent can go to time point T by executing event E sub 1, to time point V by executing event E sub 2, or to time point X by executing event E sub 3. Of course, agents may attempt to execute some events but may fail to do so. So we have to also take into consideration the successful execution of events and their failure. This means to say that the agents may act on their intentions without requiring them to be successful in their attempts. We will give an example of this later. A formalism similar to computation tree logic will be used. A distinction between state formulas and path formulas has to be made. The state formulas are evaluated at a specified time point in a time tree, while path formulas are evaluated over a specified path in a time tree. Then, two modal operators, that is, optional and inevitable, will be used. A path formula psi is treated as optional if, at a particular time in the time tree, psi is true of at least one path emerging from that point. A path formula psi is treated as inevitable if psi is true of all paths emerging from that point. The standard temporal operators next, eventually, always, and until operate over state and path formulas. We can combine these modalities in various ways to describe the options available to the agents. An example of combined modalities is shown on the screen. As we can see, the path from time point SR to time point P is optionally eventually P. Why optionally? It is because there is only one path from time point SR to time point P. Why eventually? It is because time point P appears only at the end of the path from time point SR. For example, if we say it is optional that we eventually live with God in eternity, then it can be denoted by P. This means to say that we can either choose to be with God in eternity or not. We are not compelled to be with God in eternity, thus optionally. But because we do not live with God in eternity while we are still alive, then we who choose to be with God in eternity will only enjoy it after the resurrection from the dead, thus eventually. As for the path from time point SR to time points Q, based on the given tree, it is inevitably eventually Q. Why inevitably? It is because all paths leaving from time point SR have time point Q at the end. Why eventually? It is because time points Q appear only at the end of all paths leaving from time point SR. For example, if we say it is inevitable that eventually we will come before the judgment seat of Christ, then it can be denoted by Q. If we assume that whether we believe it or not, we will come before the judgment seat of Christ, then whatever path we choose in life, we will really come before the judgment seat of Christ, thus inevitably. But because we will not come before the judgment seat of Christ while we are still alive, then we will come before the judgment seat of Christ only after the resurrection from the dead, thus eventually. As for the path from time point SR to time point R, based on the given tree, it is optionally always R. Why optionally? It is because there is only one path from time point SR to time point R. Why always? It is because the time points R appear in every time points along the path. For example, if we say it is optional that we always live in the Philippines, then it can be denoted by R. Although we are born in the Philippines, we can choose to live in other countries that we like, thus optionally. But we can choose to live in the Philippines until death, thus always. As for the path from time points SR to time point S, based on the given tree, it is inevitably always S. Why inevitably? It is because all paths leaving from time point SR have time point S at the end. Why always? It is because the time points S appear in every time points along every path leaving from time point SR. For example, if we say it is always the case that we need to breathe in order to live, then it can be denoted by S. Since we cannot live without breathing, so we have no choice but to breathe in order to live, thus inevitably. Since we cannot live without breathing regularly, then we have to breathe without stopping for a long period of time, thus always. Let's talk about belief accessible worlds. Belief is modeled in the conventional way, where a set of belief accessible worlds is associated for every situation. These belief accessible worlds refer to the worlds that the agent believes to be possible. Each belief accessible world is a time tree. Multiple belief accessible worlds result from the agent's lack of knowledge about the state of the world. But within each of these worlds, the branching future represents the options or choices still available to the agent in choosing which actions to do. For example, suppose you are using your computer to finish your urgent task or work, but suddenly your computer broke down. What would you do in this situation in order to finish your urgent task or work? You believe that you can go to the computer store to buy a new computer, and your work will eventually be done. You also believe that you can go to the computer repair shop and have the computer repaired. These are some of the possible beliefs that you have in mind. Another belief is that if you go to sleep, then your computer remains broken and your urgent tasks remain unfinished. So, you have some options as to what to do for your urgent task to be done. Those beliefs constitute the elements in your belief accessible worlds. This belief accessible world is shown in the screen. Agent's belief correspond to the information that the agent has about the world. These beliefs may be incomplete or incorrect. Just like what is shown on the screen, other beliefs are still possible. For example, one belief could be to use or borrow another computer. Another belief could be to rent a computer. Let's talk about goal accessible worlds. Goal accessible worlds are the same with the belief accessible worlds, where a set of goal accessible worlds is also associated for every situation to represent the goals of the agent. Goals are chosen desires of the agent that are consistent. For example, in the belief accessible world shown on the screen, one of the beliefs is inconsistent with the goal. If the goal is to finish the urgent task or work, then the belief that going to sleep will make the urgent task unfinished is inconsistent with the goal. So, we can exclude that belief in goal accessible world as shown in the screen. Agent's desires represent states of affairs that the agent would, in an ideal world, wish to be brought about. Implemented BDI agents require that desires be consistent with one another, though human desires often fail in this respect. It is required that for every belief accessible world W, at a given moment in time T, there must be a goal-accessible world that is a subworld of W at time t. Let's talk about intention-accessible worlds. Intentions are similarly represented by a set of intention-accessible worlds. These worlds are the ones that the agent has committed to attempt to realize. The intention-accessible worlds of the agent must be compatible with her goal-accessible worlds. It is because an agent can only intend some course of action if it is one of her goals. Therefore, there must be an intention-accessible world that is a subworld of W at time t. Unfortunately, an agent must therefore fix upon some subset of its desires and commit resources to achieving them. For example, if the goal is to have the urgent task or work finished, then there are two goals as shown on the screen. Both options would get things done. If we have the resources like money, enough to buy a new computer, and we commit this money, our intention-accessible world will look like the one shown in the screen. The result is that we have a new computer that can be used to get the urgent task or work finished. But if our resources like money is very limited such that it is not enough to buy a new computer, then we commit this limited amount of money to pay for the repair of the computer. So, our intention-accessible world will look like the one shown in the screen. We can still finish the urgent task because our computer is now working. Agent's intentions are the chosen desires to which the agent has some commitment. I hope it is clear to us now that there are many possible beliefs in the belief-accessible worlds, but only those that are consistent with the goals or desires are included in the goal-accessible worlds. From among the possible options available in the goal-accessible worlds, only those goals that can be achieved by the available resources will be included in the intention-accessible world. We have to note that even if the agent believes that certain facts are inevitable, she is not forced to adopt them as goals or as intentions. This means that goals and intentions, while having to be consistent, need not be closed under the beliefs of the agent. For example, if we believe that it is inevitable that pain always accompanies having a tooth filled, we may still have the goal or intention to have a tooth filled without also having the goal or intention to suffer pain. Then we can have something similar to the one shown in the screen. Thank you very much. I hope this lecture notes in audiovisual form has helped you in some way in understanding BDI logic in your computer science journey. Bye!